different gravy, different gear, different levels of teams. Don't care what people say about PSG. I make the accusation that they're a Fabergé egg, and that's a flippant throwaway comment that I nicked from Danny Kelly. But notwithstanding that, different levels, and Man City went through the gears, raised to a different gear, and PSG couldn't get anywhere near them. It wasn't about PSG's second half performance. It was all about Man City's.
Yeah, I actually think they played so much higher up, a bit more energy.
Yep.
Fullbacks stayed wider and a little bit higher up as well. Cancelo got involved in the second half. He didn't really do that in the first half, but it was a high caliber football match. I thought in the first half, actually, Manchester City looked a little bit as if they were stunned by the way that Neymar was playing. In the second half, I think we all forgot that Neymar was playing, and I think that's probably credit to Manchester City.
Well, it's not a case of PSG dropping their standards. It's a case of Man City, men and boys. This was a different level of coach to Pochettino, a different level of player, a different level of team, and a different level of outlook. And they didn't give PSG a whiff in the second half. In the first half, well, you put that down to a look-see, a bit of respect for PSG, and PSG playing in a certain way that they were enabled to. When the boys turned up, the big boys turned up in the second half, PSG were not in the same zip code.
Yeah. The key thing to remember, though, I suppose, is that it's only half-time. And Maurizio Pochettino, who has a lot of supporters, a lot of fans, a lot of people believe he's an elite coach, he's got the chance to prove it next week at the Etihad.
Well, he's a very good coach. You can't say he's an elite coach because, one, anything. Elite coaches get put into a category of the Jose Mourinhos of the world and the Pep Guardiolas of the world and the Alex Fergusons of the world because they pull out, like Brian Clough once said, you pull out your history and say, you can't argue with that. There it is. It's indelible. It's there for everyone to see. Pochettino has gone into a club that flatters to deceive by winning a piddly-pop league in France with the greatest respect and doesn't operate at a level where I think the Man Cities of the world have operated by winning the hardest domestic league in the world to win, dominating a style of football that people say couldn't have been done in this Premier League. And now you've got their moment. This is the halcyon moment for Man City. This is the moment to put all the doubters to bed about what Man City do and don't represent in terms of not having won the Champions League. There's only one thing that I think stops them, in my view, is Thomas Tuchel. I think his team potentially put a spoke in the wheel. But I thought last night, as many superlatives as I can find, Man City were a infinitely better side than PSG on every single level for 45 minutes.
But I walk away from both those semi-finals, and you mentioned Thomas Tuchel and Chelsea from the previous night, and I can't help but thinking it was a little bit of a missed opportunity from both, because I thought that PSG were on the ropes. I thought maybe Manchester City could have gone away with an extra goal and an extra cushion to go back to the Etihad, and I thought that Chelsea really, after their first half showing, should have had more to show for their performance, and a miss by Timo Werner, probably at a crucial time, could be their undoing.
Possibly, but I didn't see everything Chelsea were everything Liverpool were not against Real Madrid. And I don't see that having got the measure, it's like boxers having got the measure of one another, like Tyson Fury looking at Deontay Wilder in the first fight, realising in the second fight, you got nothing, I'm going to knock you out, right? And I think Chelsea will look at Real Madrid and say, no, you haven't got nothing, but we know how to play against you, we know how to beat you. And certainly with Manchester City could have won that game 4-5-1, with the amount of domination that they had, if they'd gone into the last 10 minutes really putting their foot on PSG's throat, because they were gone. They were out. They'd lost their discipline, their shape. They were down to 10 men. They'd lost their focus. They'd lost their belief. They were there. They were a dead man walking, and City could have killed that tie within the last 10 minutes. But I don't believe that it won't be the same thing on next week when they play them next week. I think they'll wipe the floor with PSG because I think they're a far better side.
And they have got probably, arguably, the best player in the world in their team in Kevin De Bruyne. What a player that man is. I tell you, he is
in his position.
Sensational.
Yeah,
and you know what? The goalkeeper made an absolute rick for the equalising goal.
He did.
When he curls the ball in and he doesn't read the flight of it, doesn't take charge of the situation. But that is a ball that if anyone gets a touch in, it's going into the net. And the reason that the defenders are a little bit hesitant to latch onto it is because it's such a difficult ball that slices open that defence, and that's what he can do, and that's what he should be able to do.
And if you're talking about the best players in the world and they're getting paid the kind of money that they have, that's what they should be able to do. It's like getting a golfer on a golf course saying he can't hit a 9-iron because it's not one of his favourite clubs. That's what they should be able to do. If you're at the top of their game, they should be able to put balls on a sixpence, be able to play passes that other people can't do because they're at an elite level of the game. In his position, he's the best in the world. But you look at other people that are out on that pitch as well that add incredible value. Mahrez was outstanding last night.
He was getting back defending as well and helping out. He made a crucial tackle in the box as well when he was helping out his team defensively. Where was Raheem Sterling last night?
On the bench where he belongs. because he's not a world-class player, unlike Trevor Sinclair's ridiculous assertions.
I was a bit surprised, actually. I thought he played really well in the game on Sunday in the Carabao Cup final. I thought he stretched the Tottenham defence. He caused all sorts of problems. I know that he's been playing second fiddle, actually, to Foden over the course of the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And I just think a little bit, I know there's a contract discussion going on. I just wonder whether or not over the course of the summer, the transfer saga might not be Harry Kane going somewhere. It might end up being Raheem Sterling.
Maybe, but I think Manchester City have got an embarrassment of riches. I think Raheem Sterling is a top quality player, and I think if he wants to cement the perspective of where he is, and people like Trevor Sinclair ran around throwing these superlatives out about world-class players, I don't think he's at that level, then he won't be going out of Man City when things aren't the way that he would want them to be. He'll be fighting to convince Pep Guardiola that he's a starting lineup player. But my focus really is about what Man City, because I'm a big critic of Man City for a variety of reasons, and I imagine a bunch of Man City fans are now sitting in disbelief that I'm actually giving their club some very, very much overdue praise, I suspect. But
well,
I'm
they're
more
welcome to
interested
come
in
on and give you some stick. 08717 223344.
Yeah, okay. But look, the bottom line is that two performances between two English clubs over two clubs that are perceived to be the giants of Europe. One of them, the bona fide giants of Real Madrid. The Petro Cup, as I like to call it, which is which is Chelsea, PSG and Man City, is in full flow. So one of the teams is going to be an oil giant winning.
Look, listen, the fact is that two English clubs are right at the top of European football. In fact, four English clubs are right at the top of European football going into the knockout stages the key knockout stages of the Europa League and the Champions League. I wonder whether or not Real Madrid are a little bit nervous about whether they're going to have their left back for the second leg against Chelsea, though, Simon, because Real Madrid are actually fighting local authorities because next week is election week in Spain. And after qualifying for a Spanish passport in 2011, Brazil star Marcelo is in a bit of a spot of bother. He, according to El Mundo, has been randomly selected to monitor a polling station next Tuesday in the Spanish capital. As a result of that, it would prevent him from joining his Real Madrid teammates flying to London. The authorities have said, well, tough, because it's all part of your civic duty, and actually, you can fly on the day of the game after your duties have been carried out. But travelling separately would ruin the coronavirus bubble.
Having lived in Spain for 20 years, Sam, and being privy and inflicted upon by a mañana mentality, you can never guarantee those elections will happen on that particular day given the Spanish. And given the way that Madrid have bought themselves back into Europa Champions Leagues by selling pieces of wasteland on the side of their stadium for 100 million quid to be able to compete financially, I think that boy will be on the plane coming to London.